Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
Greetings and salutations. This is, and I quote, a weekly show where we introduce you to some of the best creators from all over the world, and we find out more about them by taking your questions. I am your host, Ryan of And I Quote channel, and our guests, that's right, plural, on this episode are two very distinguished individuals, two very distinguished writers, and we're going to be talking about the epic, one of the greatest fictional characters of all time, known as Sherlock Holmes. Please welcome two of the experts on this matter. First up, Michael Jan Friedman is here. Hello, good sir. How are you this evening?
I'm great, Ryan. Thank you.
Oh, great. We're happy to have you here. We're also happy to have the president and CEO of the Sherlock Holmes fan club himself. Christopher D. Abbot is here. Hello, good sir. Welcome in. How are you?
Thank you, Ryan. Hello. I'm very well. How are you?
Doing excellent, sir. We're very thankful that both of you are here. We're also thankful that you are here who may be watching or listening to this program right now. Do not forget to like and share with your closest friends. If you have any questions for our guests of honor, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. And if you're watching this live or what is known as a replay, thank you so much for doing so. With that piece of business out of the way, I'll go ahead and ask a really interesting question. Christopher, when were you first introduced to the character known as Sherlock Holmes?
When was I first introduced? Very young, quite young. Although not in the way that most people are. I didn't read Sherlock Holmes first. I actually heard it. And it was some audio dramas, I think, was the first I heard. My uncle used to listen to them. And my dad, of course.
Ooh,
so very young. I don't know, about 8 or 9, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I gotcha. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Mike, how were you introduced to the character of Sherlock?
I think the first time, well, I mean, I saw the Basil Rathbone movie, I don't know, 30 times, when I was little, because, there were only so many movies on television. But the first time I really was introduced to sort of an authentic Sherlock Holmes was in college. We had in my building, we had a kind of a lending library. You just took whatever you wanted to and put it back when you were done. And it was a collected volume of Sherlock Holmes stories. So I read that and I really enjoyed that. And then time went on and, I did other things and I read other things. And I thought I was free of Sherlock Holmes. I thought I had escaped that. And then I met Chris. And Chris was a devotee of Sherlock Holmes and dragged me kicking and screaming into the Sherlock Holmes mythos, where I found I actually enjoyed it, perhaps even more than I did when I was younger.
Well, that's great. Absolutely. And thank you both for sharing that with us, because, we are going to be discussing a awesome-tacular Kickstarter campaign, which we'll get to a little bit later on in this program. Do not get me wrong. Christopher, what would you say are some of your favorite stories featuring Sherlock Holmes when it comes to the books?
Well, my favorite stories were always the ones that were like a little bit eccentric. Like The Speckled Band is one of my favorites, because I quite like the idea that it could allude to a band of gypsies or except for it was its literal sense, and I liked that cleverness. And I also think I liked, whilst Holmes is like hardly in the book, I like The Hound of the Baskervilles, and I like it for the reason that we get to see Watson be Watson without Holmes, so Watson can be himself. So in fact, Watson is narrating himself, and I thought that meant that was the truest picture of Watson we ever saw. So that's what
Oh, that's incredible. All right. And I have heard that title many, many times before, The Hound of the Baskervilles. I've heard it so many times. I just haven't, unfortunately, as of yet, I have not had the time to sit down and actually read that particular story because my TBR is, about 600-700 miles tall. It's taller than a what do you call it? The Empire State Building at this point. Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. The TBR list is just getting bigger, it's getting deeper, it's getting longer. It's just ridiculous. But with that being said,
the thing about a TBR list is,
yeah, sure,
you don't really ever have to read all those books.
That's right, or in any order.
there are, my shelves in my office are full of books, many of which I'll never read, but I feel so good being surrounded by them.
Yes, indeed. I have stacks of books here in my to-be-read pile, but that pile adjusts. Things go to the top of it when they need to.
Oh, well, that's fair. That's fair. I guess I shouldn't feel too bad about myself having a 120 plus TBR list I believe I haven't done a official number, but it's in the 120s, I want to say. So we just sort of kind of leave it at that when it comes to, hey, this is what you have to do for 2026. Let's crack that whip and get through this TBR list as best we can. What about you, Mike? Do you have any favorite Sherlock Holmes stories when it comes to the books?
I think Hound of the Baskervilles because that was the best known, and that was the one I was most attracted to when I started reading them, and Chris also got me interested in the Jeremy Brett BBC productions, and so I think those have become even more memorable than the stories themselves. I noticed one thing when I was reading these Sherlock Holmes stories. I said, they're so well done, and yet there's always something that Holmes knows that we don't, that we couldn't even guess at. And Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle had the advantage over us in that regard. But of course, we don't have the luxury of doing that with a modern audience. We can't withhold information and then trot it out at the end and say, well, look how smart Holmes is.
Gotcha. Yeah, good points. Definitely. What would you say are some of your favorite favorite adaptations of the character when it comes to other forms of media, whether it's the movies, the television series, maybe a stage play, something like that? Anything stand out for you, Mike?
Well, I'm going to say the Jeremy Brett productions because Chris doesn't allow me to say anything else. And you know what? I have to say, I have seen others. I've seen Elementary, and I've seen, of course, the Basil Rathbone, and a number of other pastiches based on Holmes. But I do have to say, Chris's taste is impeccable. The Jeremy Brett stuff really does ring true to the tone that Arthur Conan Doyle established. So if I had to pick one, it would be that.
Excellent. More stuff I got to add to my watch list. It's more homework for me. It's more homework. But hey, yeah. I don't mind it. I don't mind it, though, to be perfectly honest with you. I really don't, because a friend of mine at work was telling me about this movie that's been around for eons at this point, and I've heard of it over the years. I just never sat down to watch it until this week. I'm 24 minutes into watching the 80s comedy known as Mr. Mom with Michael Keaton and Terry Garr.
Yeah.
So that's been interesting to get 24 minutes into that, and it's quite funny. So far, there's definitely some funny moments with him and the kids in the grocery store. Herb, we were never even in aisle 7. I promise you, there's some good moments there. So I'm 24 minutes into that. So it took me a minute, right? It took me a minute to get on this bandwagon, but slowly but surely I'm getting on to in the process of watching the movie known as Mr. Mom, which absolutely has nothing to do with what we're going to be discussing here on this show. Notice, and I quote, "Don't forget to like and share." If you're watching us live on the replay, thank you for doing so. If you have any questions for our guests of honor, Mike and Christopher, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Christopher, any other favorite adaptations and other forms of media when it comes to the character of Sherlock Holmes and Watson?
I think I like quite a lot of them, actually. I think I really quite liked Basil Rathbone. I didn't like his Watson. That was a poor interpretation by an extremely good actor. But I liked Basil Rathbone's Holmes. I really quite liked Peter Cushing's Holmes too, and Ian Richardson and Ian McKellen. I think Jeremy, in my view, personified the Holmes at his peak, which was at his peak powers, and the two Watsons that surround him throughout that time are the correct Watsons for the period, because he was a doctor and he was intelligent, a surgeon, a military man, and therefore not the bumbling fool that he is often portrayed as. And I think that bravo to that series for actually portraying Watson correctly, because really Watson was Conan Doyle, because Conan Doyle was a doctor and a lot of these things as well, and amateur detective in his own right. So.
Right, fascinating insights, good sir.
And Arthur Conan Doyle made Watson a writer.
Yes, yes,
Right.
he did.
He's among all those other things. He's such a polymath. He's also a writer, the chronicler of Holmes's adventures, and a successful one.
That is very true. Very true, very true. Very good points. And one of the things I discovered, and I can't believe I didn't pick up on this many years ago when the show was originally on the air, but the television show with Hugh Laurie, House.
Oh,
his
yes.
best friend is Wilson. I'm like, wait a minute. You think about it, House, Wilson, Holmes, Watson, like, oh, wait a minute. This isn't a medical drama. I mean, it is a medical drama, but at the same time, it's kind of a very loose adaptation of the characters of Sherlock Holmes and Watson, because Wilson's his best friend. They talk about the medical cases when things come up, and House is either, I don't think he's really stumped. He just wants to get another opinion of another doctor within the hospital, right? So he goes to Wilson, and I thought, oh, I didn't think about that when the show was on, because I was just so entranced by Hugh Laurie and his dialogue and how he annoys everybody, but yet he knows all the answers to all the questions that are going to be asked of him, either like during someone's asking him or whatever. And I thought, oh, it's just Holmes and Watson, just in a different kind of setting, right?
It was definitely penned, I think, as the medical drama Sherlock Holmes. I think House, that character, was supposed to be a Holmes-based character who, and everything was there: the narcotics, the very clever deductions by his observation alone. And the obnoxious antisocial behavior, which is synonymous with Holmes, perhaps a little too brusque in this case, but certainly not totally unrelatable to that character. I think the only thing that was different was that this character wasn't an advocate for justice in some regards. It was just about the chase. So he just took that element of the Holmes character that was the puzzle solver part that gave him joy, and in between took the narcotics for pain and then obviously for his own addictions as well. But I think that character was quite cleverly personified. Maybe a portion of the character, the analytical part of the character, was well placed in House.
I completely missed that. But now that you mention it, it's so obvious. A house, a home, and Wilson. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about television. You're just so entranced by the characters of the storyline that's going on. You don't think about, oh, wait a minute. You think about the names, think about the Easter eggs, or something that may ring a bell, or something to that effect. So, well done to the studio and to the cast and crew for those. I think it ran for, what is it, 8? No, 7.
Yeah.
Was it 8 seasons?
I think it's
that's a heck of a run. I mean, that's a heck of a run, honestly. It's only one. I think it was one season longer than Johnny Lee Miller's interpretation with Elementary, between him and Lucy Liu playing the character of Joan Watson in that case. Which for me personally, when it comes to adaptations of Sherlock Holmes and other forms of media, mind you, I quite enjoyed Elementary, to be perfectly honest. I think that was a really good show, and I also liked Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch and what was it, Martin Freeman, if I remember correctly.
Yes,
Those two played off each other very interestingly well. And then when he brings out the hat in a certain season, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're harkening like way back with this. I'm like, Benedict Cumberbatch is wearing this outfit? Get out of town. So, you know, but again, that's the beauty of a great actor is Benedict Cumberbatch can play Sherlock for 1 minute and then the Doctor Strange the next. And then before that, he was playing a different iteration of Khan, you know, in Star Trek Into Darkness.
That's
so,
right. Yeah, I like that Sherlock series. A lot of people, look, you'll find the Sherlockian fan base is fairly equally parted in many ways. The traditionalists on one side who are very keen that they only stick to that traditional period, the 19th century Watson narrating style, typically standard Conan Doyle-esque pastiche, and then there are people who like other things with, you know, Sherlock Mouse and Watson as a mouse and all that sort of stuff. I'm in the camp of I like all of it. I'll give it all a go, but there are a lot of people out there that won't always like some of the alternative stuff, and Sherlock is one of those series that sat on that fringe between being liked by one group and not liked by another. And of course, it caught the Doctor Who fan group, of course, because it was written by, you know, Moffat and Gatiss, and it had half the Doctor Who cast in it at some point, I think. But I liked it for the first 2 seasons, and then it just got too abstract for me after that. But I thought it was clever, and I thought it was a good reinterpretation, and I thought Martin Freeman personified a Watson I thought would be much more suited to the period of time he was in. I thought it was well cast and well thought out. And I liked the interplay between the two characters. And I thought Sherlock himself was perhaps a little too aggressively the other way all the time, but otherwise clever, and did a good job of capturing some of the elements of the Holmes character, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, everything is all art is subjective. So some things may work for an audience, some things may not. But yeah, I quite enjoyed the Sherlock adaptation for sure. Along with, you know, and I agree with what you said there, Christopher. Absolutely. What is it that keeps bringing people back to this character of Sherlock Holmes from your standpoint, Christopher? Why does this character stand the test of time amongst all the other fictional characters that are out there?
Oh, I think that's easy to answer because he's a superhero. And we love superheroes. I mean, people are still reading Spider-Man books and Superman books, and these things have been going for a long time. And Sherlock Holmes is one of the original superheroes. It's like Captain Nemo, you know, like these are superheroes. And I think when you think about it now, you don't realize that, you know, this is a man beyond man. You know, he is the only one that can solve the most complex of things, which would outfox and outmaneuver anyone else. This is a superhero. He just doesn't have a cape. He has a pipe. Later on, we see variations of that theme. But yeah, I think the reason that he lives on is because of that fact. We don't let go of our superheroes, the people that we look up to, the people that we can say, I want to be able to do that. You know, I think that's why these characters survive as long as they do.
I think Watson had a lot to do with it. You know, when Batman came about, the publishers were thinking, they were concerned that, you know, this Dark Avenger would not be accessible to their readers. And so they said, in order to keep up this success, let's establish a link that that the readers can identify with more easily. And they came up with Robin the Boy Wonder, and we have Watson, the middle-aged wonder. You know, he gives us that access to Holmes, not only in that he's the one who's presenting Holmes. So it's filtered through his intelligence and his sensibilities, but he is also the guy that we can identify with because we're not Holmes, we're not super. We want to be there observing and marveling, and Watson gives us a chance to do that.
Excellent analysis. And it's all very good. It makes a whole lot of sense too, like 100%. And thank you both for sharing that with us wholeheartedly. Yeah, I mean, Watson, to a certain extent, in my opinion, from what I've read, is kind of like he's kind of like the audience. He's our eyes into this world. He's our eyes and ears into who this character is, what exactly is going on around him, what is it like being in England and being in that house at 221B Baker Street. And it's funny you brought up the adaptation of Sherlock Holmes with the mouse, the great mouse detective. Yes. I'm a Disney fan. So I grew up watching that as a kid. And oddly, well, not oddly, but evenly enough, that movie turns the big 4-0 this year, The Great Mouse.
Really?
Yes. Wow. Yes. Came out in the year of 1986.
Oh.
Yeah.
I remember the 80s.
Wow.
Yeah, not to make anyone feel younger than they already are, but
I'm nostalgic for the 80s.
Did I just say that out loud? I probably did. But yes, later on this year, Anti-Quote Channel is going to be doing a 40th anniversary watch along for The Great Mouse Detective.
Oh,
so we're excited. We're excited. My friends and I are going to be sitting here. You're going to be watching us watch the movie. You can watch the movie along with us from the comfort of your own home on physical media or streaming services. We encourage our audience to do so, and we just commentate during the movie because we're just having a good time. We're just having a good time with it. It's kind of like Mr. Science Theater 3000. The only difference is where Mr. Science Theater 3000 likes to throw good or maybe just bad movies under the bus. We tend to watch good movies around here in the studio. And in my opinion, I know it's an opinion, it's not a fact, but The Great Mouse Detective is an enjoyable film.
It is.
So, I mean, I like it. I mean, is this Basil Baker Street? Basil on the case. It's just come on. Vincent Price is in there. I mean, as Rattigan. I mean, how can you say no to that? Oh. It's all good stuff. I'm just saying, folks. I'm just saying. So tune in for that when the announcement becomes formal, and we post the link in our social media so you can tune into that. I believe that is going to be on a Friday night at 7:00 Eastern time during a certain part of the year. So stay tuned. Excellent. I couldn't help myself. I had to do it once. So with that being said, I do want to share something with you and with you who may be watching or listening to this right now. We're going to take a look at something here. So this bad boy right here, Sherlock Holmes, hold on a second. Let me make sure I say this correctly. I want to make sure I say it correctly.
Oh, you're going to have a hard time with this.
I'm probably going to butcher it, but I'm going to try my absolute best here. And if I make a mistake, mistakes happen. Mistakes happen. We have a Kickstarter campaign going on right now for Sherlock Holmes, the Suffolk Stigmata. Am I right?
Pretty good. Suffolk.
Okay, Suffolk Stigmata. So for someone who's unfamiliar with this and someone wants to know more about the story, how it came about, and it's a Kickstarter, tell us, gentlemen, how did this come about and how can people support this project?
Well, Chris and I had I had stories appearing in Chris's anthologies, and that worked out well. And during one of our trips down to Shore Leave or Far Point or something like that, we talked about the possibility of collaborating on a novel, and which was more of a challenge because the books, the stories that we had done for the anthologies were shorter, and we said that would be a worthy challenge, and we set out to find a story that would justify a novel, and as far as the Kickstarter, that was always in the works. We thought we wanted to. I think I've done 15 Kickstarters, something like that, and I thought this would lend itself to a Kickstarter. I should also say the cover is by an artist named Jeff Hayes, who's very, very talented and very, very professional. I think Chris, right?
Yes, definitely.
And readers should look for his work. He's very good.
I think you're going to see a lot more of it. Yeah.
Oh, are we now?
Yeah, I think so.
Once you meet with Classifier Graphics, you don't go anywhere else. I mean, you just stay. You just tend to stay with him. Why? Because Jeffrey, in my opinion, is the best in the world.
There you go.
I mean, he just is. There's great cover artists out there. There is no shortage of that, and there's some great people out there. There is no doubt in my mind. But every time I pick up a book and it has a Jeffrey Hayes Classifier Graphics, by the way, put together, cover, I think to myself, this isn't just a book. This is like a movie. And I want to see this movie. I want to see who these characters. I want to find out more about these characters, what the story is, why they're looking the way that they look, how they got there, what it was. I mean, honestly, I keep telling Jeffrey, I'm like, dude, these things should be made into like actual movie-sized posters and put in like all the places around the world, because that's how good this artwork is.
Well, I thought, like, when Mike showed me the first parts, because he got some concept stuff sent and he sent it to me, and I was so I was like wowed by it, and but I think originally, because Jeffrey is also a Sherlock Holmes fan and also a Jeremy Brett fan specifically. In fact, if the eagle-eyed of you will notice, the cane that our Holmes is holding is in fact the same cane that Jeremy Brett has. That silver-headed cane. So, but we decided, or Mike and I talked about this, and we decided we were going to give our Holmes a tweak to make him not quite Jeremy Brett's Holmes. You know what I mean? Like, I'd been writing lots of Jeremy Brett stuff, esque stuff, and we went slightly, like, we created our own version of the character a little bit, and then after that, I think Mike had Jeffrey adjust our character's facial features slightly. Because we wanted him Jeremy Brett-esque.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll say very often when you're engaged in a project where we're not only writing but also publishing, you don't have a very clear idea of what you're writing until you see the cover. Until you see the artist's contribution and you say, yes, you know what? That's the way to go. And it's inspiring when you see something that's really cool. And it helps solidify the concepts in your mind. So it was a significant contribution.
Yeah, I'll say it's what I mean. Once again, he always hits it out of the park. Every time. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what the story is, who the writer is, what they're looking for, what the concept is, right? He just nails it out of the park. So Jeffrey Hayes of Classifier Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you. Excellent work. Excellent. And we've had him on the show before. It's been some years now since he was here, because he's so in demand. It's hard for him to spare time from the Batcave to, hang out with us cool kids on this side of the fence, but hey, more power to him, right? Keeps him busy for the next 60,000 years. Isn't that right, Christopher?
I think in the next probable 8 months, you're going to see quite a few. I believe. Really? I think at least, yeah. I mean, I will be bringing a book out in at some point with a new cover of his. We have this one. I'm pretty sure he's done at least one or other for Crazy 8. So yeah, I think you're going to see quite a lot of. That's what I mean. Like his stuff is getting broad popularity now, which is good. Yeah. It's excellent.
You'll notice, one of the things I talked to him about early on was that Holmes books tend to be very gray and brown, which is understandable. It's you're in London in the Victorian era, and that's sort of appropriate. But I wanted our book to stand out. So if you look at it, you notice there are some bright colors in there, some bright blues, some bright reds, and there are times when you make a suggestion to an artist and you don't quite see what you wanted, but he was on it. He was right on it.
Oh yeah. I love the colorful side. I mean, because like I say, we're interpreting again, because Mike has now written a few Sherlock Holmes stories, so he's sort of got himself into the character a little easier for the third time or fourth time, I think. And for me, it is very easy to get back into that character, but a character that I'm so familiar with that didn't necessarily lend towards Mike's way of writing. So you know what I did? I didn't tell Mike this. I read about 3 of his books so I could get the cadence of how he wrote certain things, and I read the stories he'd written for me. And I'm talking stuff, the anthology stuff that he's written recently, and it helped me to get a certain cadence, plus his own home stories. I like the way he phrased things. So that's the idea, is that when you read this story, there'll be no portion of it, hopefully, that you'll be able to see one over the other. Does that make sense? That they'll blend nicely. Because
It'll be interesting, from a reader's standpoint, to see if they can figure out which parts Chris wrote originally and which parts I wrote originally, because hopefully it'll kind of all sound the same before we're done. I should also, while we're on the subject of art, I should also tell you that it looks like we're going to have along the lines of 14 pieces of interior art.
Yes.
Oh my
awesome.
gosh.
Yeah,
Really?
that's super cool. Yeah.
Having written a bunch of comic books, I have a bunch of artist friends, and so they'll be busy for a while.
Yes.
Reading these 14 pages.
There's still more left, folks.
Right. It could be more. It could be 20. By the time we're done.
20, yeah.
One of the rewards that people are taking advantage of is to have their likeness or that of a loved one in the book, in a scene from the book. So there could be a Ryan Permison likeness in the middle of a scene with Holmes and Watson.
Sign me up, I'm in.
So that's a fun thing. That's something that you can get sometimes through a Kickstarter campaign that you can't get when you walk into a bookstore. You can't insert yourself into the book.
You're right.
Plus your name in the acknowledgements as well, which is really important, because that shows that this is you supported this stuff, and you're immortalized in this book, until it stops being published. So that's awesome. I like that.
That's a valid point. Yeah. Ryan Permison walking down the street in the middle of a case between Holmes and Watson. In fact, it's elementary, my dear Watson. No, I'm sorry. I know that's not canon. That phrase has never been uttered. It's fake. It's not real. But it's one of the first things. It's one of the first things I think of when I think of Sherlock Holmes. But then again, I've heard time and time again that phrase has never been written or uttered.
Well, I think go on, Mike.
I think they said it. I think he said it's elementary.
Yes, I think he did.
Okay.
Yeah, but not it's elementary. I think, as far as I understanding, and I could be wrong, but I heard that it was Peter Cushing that coined that phrase.
Really?
That phrase, it's elementary, my dear Watson. And I think either Basil Rathbone did it as well, but I think it just sort of it crept in the same way that the Star Trek one, beam me up, Scotty, or whatever, whichever one.
Right.
That sort of became folklore, then it became a real thing, and then they started using it because they, and it's not true. So I think my understanding was in the same way that William Gillette wore the Deerstalker first, and thus produced this character with this Deerstalker, which was in 1912 or something. That is the character that is synonymous with Holmes. That is the caricature.
Oh, I see.
With the Deerstalker. And yet, if you read the stories, there is only 2 stories in which he goes out of London with a different hat, and mostly, like most Victorian gentlemen of his period, he wore a top hat. And
I should tell you that our Kickstarter campaign is not just about writing and artwork. You know what I'm going to say here?
Oh boy!
Chris and I also wrote a Holmes song, and Chris was courageous enough to perform it, because he is not just a writer; he is also a talented musician. So, for the video that accompanies the Kickstarter campaign, which I usually in my campaigns devote to some terrible dad joke about the subject matter. Instead, we wrote this song. Chris performed it. So if you go to the video in the campaign, there's Chris performing performing a Holmes-based song. So you should, if nothing else, you should check that out.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Actually, what was fun about that project was Mike said to me about doing some kind of video, and I thought, oh, what could I do? And then you sent me the words, I think, and said, maybe put something like this to music. And I was looking at different ways of doing that, and I thought I'd have to do something very Holmesian. And then I thought, oh, well, a little bit of folk. And then all of a sudden, I'd found the little tune, the ditty. And then once I'd got that, and Mike had written the words in such a fashion, it was like a sort of lyrics to a song or a poem, and I just did them verbatim pretty much. I think I don't think I changed them, Mike, did I?
No. And it came out, as when you collaborate with very talented people, you usually get something back that's even better than what you had in mind. So and this is that. Wow. We'll be recording the song in an album of our greatest hits.
There's going to be a duet album.
I'm there. New York.
No duets. No duets.
No duets, Mike?
No duets.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
tone deaf.
I'm sorry. I misspoke then. I apologize. But, I'm not misspeaking about the fact that you're watching or listening to an incredible episode, it's elementary, my friends, episode of, and I quote, there I go again. Don't forget to like and share. If you have any questions for our guests of honor, let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. We did take the liberty of posting the link to the Kickstarter in the comments on our Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch feeds of this video. So you can go there, and it's also in the description of the video as well. So check it out, back the campaign, select which tier is right for you. This Kickstarter, I'm proud to be a backer of it because, my gosh, so many different options, so many different things you could choose to be a part of when it comes to the tiers and the rewards and things of that nature. But yeah, no, I can't wait to read this thing, man, honestly. And it's funny, too, because we've heard so much about Sherlock Holmes over the years, and I've seen the movie, TV adaptations of him, a few, not a whole lot, but I've seen a few. And I started reading Sherlock Holmes recently with this one right here. It's called The Blooded Coin, with the Leopold letters by someone named Christopher D. Abbot, who just happens to be sitting in our virtual studio. Hello, Christopher. And then when you flip it over, it's two complete Sherlock Holmes novels right here. So there's The Unbalanced Scales by Aaron Rosenberg of Presier Press, which, by the way, this is actually the first two Sherlock Holmes stories I've ever read. Honestly, and I gotta tell you, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this because I was, because when things are written in a bit, set in a different time period, maybe set in a different place, sometimes the language, I may not get it, I may not understand. Maybe something concerning the storyline may go over my head, and I might get a bit confused. Depending on who you are, all readers are different, right? But I wasn't confused at all. I was able to follow along very, very well and understand what the characters were saying, what they were, digging at when it comes to the evidence and trying to get the information about, who's the suspect? Who do you think really did this? Why do you think they would do something like this? Why? Well, they did it because they wanted to boost their reputation, or they wanted to boost the votes or jack up the vote, whatever it was. And this was a lot of fun to follow, but it was also insightful at the same time. So I really enjoyed this. There's a review for this on my Goodreads account. I'm going to be sharing it with Christopher here when this show is completed in the DM, so he can share it with his 2.5 million followers on social media, because there's just so many these days, Christopher. My gosh, you are popular. And yes, so those two novels were so good. In fact, they were too good. When I went to Farpoint and met up with these kind gentlemen here, I said, you know what, I need more Sherlock Holmes in my life. And I said, where's a good place to start? And Mike took one look at me and he said, you know what, all these volumes are good. They're so good. But if I were going to start, I'd go with volume 2. And I said, okay, volume 2, why the heck not? And you got, this one features Christopher D. Abbot, Keith DeCandido. See, I said it right. Michael Jan Friedman. I don't know who that guy is. I never met. And I'm just kidding, by the way. Aaron Rosenberg is involved in this. And it's, 4 Sherlock Holmes stories in one book? I mean, that's 4 different cases I can solve. Yeah. Or help solve, I would say, because, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, Christopher. I'm not as smart as Sherlock. But, I think I can keep up, I mean.
Well, we'll see.
You know what? It's really funny. You know what? I'll tell you this. Everybody sends me their stories, and I think they hope that I'm going to solve it, like I'm Sherlock Holmes, right? But I can't solve it any more than they can solve mine, right? Because it's not written that way. It's not written in a way for you to be able to solve because the second time you read it, you see all the clues and go, "Oh, I could have solved it," but no, you never had the context. That's the whole. I think that's what's clever about writing mystery stuff, is that you're sort of writing it in a way. If you think of a corkscrew backwards, I think that all the really important information is given to you at the end, and if you was to read from the end and work backwards, you'd see where all the clues were laid out for you.
Yeah. Well, what we're doing is synthesis, and what Holmes is doing is analysis. So it's much easier to figure out what the crime is when you've built it.
That's very true. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's your world, right? Yeah.
Well, it's fantastic stuff. I got to be honest. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to continuing my journey into learning more about these characters and Sherlock Holmes, of course.
I will say something quickly about that book, because this was the second of the volume, and the first volume was me doing a couple of stories, and I'd asked Mike and I'd asked Aaron to collaborate, and we did this. And I didn't know how to collaborate, so I just
Guys, I have to take one minute to say goodnight to my granddaughter.
Oh, so that's the one who was making all that noise behind the scenes that I couldn't see.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it was.
Hello, Munchkin.
Good night.
You little Munchkin. Look at you. Aww. Cute kid alert on camera too, folks. Take a look at that. Isn't that special? Isn't that special? Oh, oh my goodness gracious. That's a future reader in the making right there, folks.
That's the first time I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first. I think that's the first time I've ever seen another member of your family, Mike. I got to be honest.
Well, she's the only one who's not wanted by the authorities.
Oh, good heavens almighty. Well, that is just jolly, jolly good, and when she gets old enough to start reading books and, gets a bit older, she should be reading these. Sure.
Yeah, I know. I just to
go ahead.
On that one point.
Mm-hmm.
When we developed this sort of stuff,
yes,
Mike had never done Sherlock Holmes, I think traditional Sherlock Holmes, but he'd written a ton of other stuff, and he'd written mysteries and everything else, so it wasn't outside of his abilities. It was just, I think, just the idea of the Sherlock Holmes thing. But I asked him, and he said, yeah, of course. And every time he sends it to me, he goes, I might need your help to tweak this, and every time it's fine.
Chris, I might need your help to do
I don't believe it. No, but I mean, in all fairness, I think I think we've all gained from this partnership, and these stories that we're writing, Mike and I, are not like we've written before. So it's a different effect. So this isn't like a typical Sherlock Holmes story, and yet it is. I can't really explain it too much, but we tried our best to create a sort of, like the cover suggests, it's slightly colorful variant.
Mm-hmm. There are some. One of the things I like to do in these Holmes stories is put Holmes in a situation that you don't expect. In one of the in the first Holmes story that I wrote for Chris, Holmes is at a handball tournament, which turns out to be very, very historically appropriate. He actually lived during a time when handball tournaments were a thing in London, and in the third story that I did, he runs into George Bernard Shaw, and it's sort of a buddy story, sort of. So I try to take historically accurate but unexpected elements and work them into this. And you'll see when you read this book that we've done that same thing again. We've taken some historically appropriate elements, but entirely unexpected, and worked them in.
And I think I have to say that's what attracted me, I think, to not just the project, but this collaborative effect, because Mike likes to do that. I also have a real want for some historical accuracy in my work. I like to have events of real world that could have had that time. I actually wrote a Sherlock Holmes novella called The Lone Rider, which is a story about Holmes and Watson going to see the Statue of Liberty being unveiled, and in that period of time, there leads a case happens in Manhattan, and they have to go and solve that and travel around an area that Holmes has no knowledge of, but in a real world with real world things. So it's important. I had to work out how long it would take them to walk from one end of Manhattan to the other, and if they got a carriage, how many hours it would take them to get to the bottom. And believe it or not, it used to take 5 hours to get to the bottom of Manhattan in a horse and cart. So
Wow.
so stuff like that's really important. So I have like, and then as I've grown a little bit more confident with my work and a little bit more confident with my writing, I've become really, it's become a hugely important that there is a level of accuracy to either whether historical or medical or whatever. If Dr. Watson is saying something like, take this prescription, I want to make sure that that's correct. So it does require a lot of research and talking to various different people who have skills and so on. So yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's so worth the effort.
It's it certainly is. 5 hours on a cabin. Good Lord. That's too long for me. That's too rich for my own blood. 5 hours worth in a ride. A little too long. But man, no, it's but yeah, I appreciate historical accuracy. That definitely helps. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, and look, there's no right or wrong way to be introduced to these characters. There is no right or wrong way, but it's just, from my experience, I've heard so much about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle over the years. I've heard so much about these stories and Sherlock Holmes and Watson and Moriarty, and all these different things. But I mean, if you want to start reading or learning more about this character known as Sherlock Holmes and Watson, not to sound biased or anything, but read 2 and 1. Why don't you with the blooded coin, and then just switch it up with some volumes with different writers? There's no right or wrong way to do it, but it's help. You know why? Because I got to be honest with you, reading these stories was so much fun. And one of the reasons people love to read books is the escapism of it all. We want to take a break from our real world and enter another world, and just feel like you're walking around it. Just feel like you're smelling the scents in the air, the food, the scenery, the lights, the sound, whatever it is, all the 5 senses, kind of thing. And I found myself just really enjoying it. It took me away from the grind because we've been in a bit of a struggle here in the Northeast and the South with all the snow and the ice storms and the freezing temperatures. People have lost power. People unfortunately don't have furnaces that are properly working at this point. And for me, reading these stories is so much fun, and it's just a great escape. And man, and it kind of goes to that old adage that there is nothing better than curling up by a fire with a nice book. I mean, I know it's taking back to the 1600s, which I wasn't there for, but it kind of it rings true, right? It just rings true. There's nothing better than sitting by the fire, getting warmed up in the dead of winter, and reading these kinds of stories and these kinds of books, because you get to figure out things. If you feel like solving the cases with these characters, you can, but just enjoy the ride, because the way Watson sees things, the way that he does, and then he's sharing with us how Sherlock is reacting to these things as they go along by solving these cases. I'm like, man, I wish I could sit by the fire with him, just smoking his pipe and just chilling and trying to figure out things in his mind. He's got that smirk on his face at times when he looks at Watson, or he's looking at the paper, and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, forget about hanging out with these people I call my friends in the real world. I want to hang out with these two.
I think when I was like creating the idea of these Watson Chronicles, which is like surpassed 30 books now, I think, in this series, which started in 2020, by the way, so it's not bad. I had an idea for the concept that the books would be what I would call beach books, like you would take in a beach bag with you. They're not big, they're small, they're stories that you can read in maybe 2 or 3 days of going like on a beach holiday and so on. And when I was a kid, I used to do a lot of reading. I used to read a lot of Agatha Christie books, Sherlock Holmes stuff, but they were always small. They weren't big books, and you could read them in 2 or 3 days. And that was my concept. And I've done that ever since. And I think it's a perfect size. 35 to 40,000 words is just a perfect size for like a beach holiday or, that kind of book.
Now, our novel, on the other hand, will be twice that long.
Yes, it will.
So it'll be a very long beach holiday.
Well, yeah, this is sitting on a train and going all the way from Austria right the way down towards Egypt. Take a couple of days, but read. But no, the difference is that most people will elect to write novellas, short stories, for Holmes characters, because sometimes the character of Holmes can be too much for a big story. You have to find a way to make Holmes work without being too dominant and too in your face. You need breathing room from him. And I think even Conan Doyle found that, which is why he wrote novels with him half the time missing. So we found a way to make the novel concept work and still keep it fresh as we tell the story. So I'm very excited for this project. I think it's going to be, I think people are going to really, really dig it.
I mean, I already dig it from, the cover by Plastic Power Graphics Jeffrey Hayes, and also sharing with us a little bit more about what the story is going to entail. I can't wait to sit down and read this gosh darn thing. Heck, I mean, if I end up as one of the illustrated characters, likeness to me as an illustration in this book, I'm going to be thinking to myself, hey, forget about your name being up in lights. You're kind of immortalizing the artwork, son. That's like a step up. That's like, being, what do you call it? Having your name on the cover is sort of more or less like winning a Grammy or a special kind of award. But when your likeness is in it, that's like winning the bloody Oscar.
Well, and don't forget, they don't necessarily have to have their actual physical likeness in the book. They could have their name mentioned, maybe a street name, maybe a constable, constable's name. There's an endless possibility, because there are so many of those kinds of incidentalist characters that just do a quick one scene by name, and there's options to put you in everything. There's even the long scene options where we can tuckerize people and actually give them a meaningful character that does something in the story. So there's so many ways that people can be in this book, if and a lot of people are already.
Yeah. It's really
fantastic.
Backers have really responded to the levels that allow them to be mentioned, to be acknowledged, to be full-fledged characters, to have their likenesses in the book. They've really responded, and it's very, it's cool, it's gratifying, and the upshot is, of course, that we're going to have so much interior art.
Yes.
Some of which will be likenesses, but much of which will just be illustrations of different scenes in the book. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, just having any kind of anybody interpreting what you're doing, or giving an option to interpret what you're doing and then produce something off of it, whether it be music or so on, is always exciting. But to actually be able to physically see something that someone else interpreted, like a graphic or a design or something, and I think that's where a lot of the artists that Mike works with, they have that skill. Okay, I understand what you want, and they kind of do. I also think that I sometimes forget that we as the writers do have a job to portray that, to give that information to them in a way that would allow them to interpret it. So I don't think I'm knocking myself, but I think it's important that you get that freedom of expression and freedom of creativity. And I'm so excited, because it's very rare. I have very rarely, if only once, seen anything that's been made from writing that I've done. So I'm excited, very excited.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things you kind folks recently announced is that for anyone who pledges, if you want to switch it from a paperback, now you can get a hardcover. Like, oh my gosh, okay, soft covers are fine, because hey, soft covers, they're a bloody dime a dozen, but you get a hardcover, it lasts for life. Because as I've heard over the years, hardcovers tend to last a lot longer than just your average paperback. Which I'm not saying this is average by any stretch, but just in general, people have said, well, if you're going to have books or collect some, if you want something you're going to reread a lot, get the hardcover. They tend to last longer. So congratulations on upping the ante, raising the stakes, and saying, hey, you can get whatever tier you want, but if you want to switch the game up a little bit, treat yourself to a hardcover. Isn't that right, Mike?
It also allows us to get a hardcover or two.
Yeah, exactly.
Before the dust clears. When I've edited anthologies and I announce to the assembled writers that we're going to be doing a hardcover version, these dignified and thoughtful writers are squeeing all over the place. Oh, it's hardcover! It's a hardcover.
Yeah.
So the readers have a chance to enjoy that, but we do too.
I always produce a hardcover of the Cases books, and that's one of the little gifts I give at Shore Leave to all the contributors. I give them paperbacks, but I also give them a hard copy cover as well, which is my gift. But they are beautiful, the laminated covers that we get made now, and I'm excited to see how the cover in the hard back will look, because as Mike pointed out, this is not a novella this is a novel. This is a full traditional Sherlock Holmes novel, and in the original traditional first person Watson narration, with the Holmes that they will recognize as the Sherlock Holmes we all know, but with some, I guess you could call it, characteristic quirks possibly that are more aligned to us as writers, to give it some of our own feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excellent, Watson. Excellent work, my dear Watson. I am very excited for this. So congratulations to everybody involved in this, because it takes a village. It takes teamwork to make your dream work, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about this. I think this is going to be fantastic. The cover is something I just want to take. I just want to take that thing, make it into a movie poster, and put it on my wall.
Yeah, I'm going to make one of these out of it. I have this.
You are going to make one of those?
No, not yet. When I get I will do that. Yeah, I love that cover.
It's, gosh.
You know why I love that cover? Not just because of the artwork, which is gorgeous in every way, but it says Christopher D. Abbot and Michael Jan Friedman on it.
It's true. It's right there. It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. So
yeah,
it's there.
I mean, that's a dream come true for any fan.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's fantastic. Yeah, Jeffrey, if you got any posters of this, send it to my home, brother. I want to put it on my wall. Let's do it now. There's too many good pieces of artwork not to have in one's collection when it comes to Jeffrey Hayes of Plaster Fire Graphics and plasterfiregraphics.com, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So this is great. Congratulations to both you fine gentlemen, and to everybody involved in making this a reality. We cannot wait to see what the future holds for both Sherlock Holmes and his partner, Dr. Watson. So I'm excited. Can't wait to read this baby. Can't wait to read this thing. Sit down by depending on when the book comes out, I may be either sitting by the fire, or I may just be chilling like a villain on my couch and reading this thing. But I don't care, because I'm going to read it. I'm going to sit there. I'm going to read it. I'm going to enjoy the living heck out of it, because sometimes, folks, all you got to do is very simple: is take a look. It's in a book. With that being said, thank you all for joining us for this episode of And I Quote. Mike, Christopher, thank you so much for being here, the both of you, and congratulations once again on all of your work and to this Kickstarter.
Thank you.
Fantastic stuff is being put out into the world, and you two are examples of that. Because honestly, the indie writers, the indie publishers are some of the best creative people I've ever met in my life, and bless every single one of you. So, Christopher, if anyone wants to know more about your work, purchase copies of your books, where can they follow you, good sir?
If you go to cdanabbott.com, that's my website, or just put Christopher D. Abbott into Google. I think I'm the first person that comes up.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here with us. And Mike, someone wants to know more about you. Purchase copies of your incredible array of books and stories. Where can they follow you?
I think the best place is Crazy8, the numeral, crazy8press.com. And you'll find everything I've done in the last 10 years or so, all my original fiction. as well as that of my Crazy Eight colleagues. I think there's probably 80 or 90 books now in inventory, and they're all well written and not exactly the kind of thing that you'll see in most bookstores. They're the most authentic visions of the writers who are involved. So I would definitely check that out. And I would keep in mind when it comes to this campaign that it ends on February 12th. So if you're inclined to become a backer, don't wait.
Now is the time, folks. Now is the time. Absolutely good, sir. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to talk to you here again momentarily, so stick around, you fine folks. My name is Ryan of And I Quote Channel. Follow me across all forms of social media simply at And I Quote Channel, which is listed right below my name here. Links to where you can follow myself and our guests are located in the description below, and the Kickstarter link is in the comment section of this video. Check out that Kickstarter. Back it if you can, and if you can't back it, share it. Share out the link to everybody you know, all your friendly neighborhood readers, because sharing is caring, folks. Sharing is caring. And a share of the link, a comment here and there, it goes a long way. It's very true. It's very, very true. Don't forget, you can check out my short story known as Wolf of the West that I wrote for the anthology simply known as Western Tales Volume 1 from Veritas Entertainment. 16 writers, 15 different stories that are pure Western. So if you're a fan of the genre or you want an entry point into the Western genre, Western Tales Volume 1 is a good place to get started. So in the words of the genre itself, saddle up. Yeah, because lots of great Western stories are out there, folks. I'm just saying. Also, we're on the road to 5,000 subscribers. Once we do, we'll have a live stream that will include special giveaways that you, the person who's watching or listening to this program right now, will be eligible to win. And also, the seasons are changing, so we got hoodies. We do have shirts, long sleeve shirts and short sleeve, and we have stickers you can add to your water bottles and coffee mugs and notepads as well, because, you know, sometimes people need that stuff. I'm just throwing it out there. Within the Redbubble store, links are in the description and located within our social media bios. Don't forget, And I Quote is normally on Saturdays, 12 o'clock Eastern time, unless otherwise specified. We do have some programming changes, and we do make some special episodes of And I Quote during the course of each year. And movie watch-alongs are on the second, third, and fourth Fridays of every month at 7 o'clock Eastern time, so make sure you check those out. And yes, the rumors are true. We are going to be celebrating 40 years of The Great Mouse Detective later on this year of 2026. It's true. In fact, it's elementary, my dear Watson. With that being said, do not forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when the videos go up or they go live. Remember, life is better when supporting indie creators from all over the world. Take a look.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasmafire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasmafire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.